Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2024. And it's absolutely awesome to be kicking off the year with a Facebook Live with a fantastic guest. I have the attraction marketing industry guru, total legend, John Melton in the house with me. John, thanks for being here today, mate.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me. What time is it where you are?
Oh, it's just gone 7 a.m. So it's
bright and early.
Bright and early Friday morning here. So we get to be a little bit in the future for us here in Australia. So, we know all your, if you want to bet on the Super Bowl or anything, we watch it Monday. So you can bet on it. We already know the result, right? So it's awesome. But, mate, great to have you here. How was your Christmas, New Year's with the family?
It flew by like it does every year. It's crazy. You feel like it's Thanksgiving. You put up the Christmas tree, and then before you know it, it's January. It's wild. It just flies by.
Yeah. All right, mate. Well, we want to talk about mastering your money mindset because this is 2024. It's New Year's resolution time. It's goal time. And we know that pretty much every single person wants to either trim down the weight or fatten up the bank account. And a lot of that is going to come to your mindset. Obviously, everything really starts, the health doesn't start in the gym. It starts with that decision to change. It starts with that mindset to live a healthier life. And it's the same with finances. And so the reason I brought John in for the live today for the first podcast of the year is because I know when we first connected over social media a couple of years ago, one of the very first posts you put up, I'm pretty sure it was a reel from memory, but I remember it was you and your wife and you were talking about how the goal isn't to look rich, the goal is to be rich. And straight away, it's like, first impressions count. We're in alignment here because we can get so caught up in social media and keeping, showing off how successful we are that we actually forget to create wealth. And so I thought that was a great place to start this conversation of actually creating wealth over just having the appearance of success, the appearance of being rich.
Yeah. No, it's so true, man. It's kind of interesting too, because I remember when I was younger, obviously when I didn't have money, that's when I was money motivated. When I was broke and I couldn't pay my bills, that's when I was money motivated. Now, and I know you're in the same boat, once you've been doing this a while and you've built businesses and you've had a lot of financial success, it's not the motivator anymore. It's really not. It's about impact, legacy. It's about doing something that you're good at, like you enjoy it, right? You want to show up every day. You can't wait to respond to your messages or do a video or do a post or do a reel because you have so much to share and you actually have a passion for what you're doing. And it is work for sure. I work my face off. I'm very consistent, but it doesn't feel like work. I don't go live or do an interview like this, like, oh gosh, even working out, which I hated working out for the longest time, over the last several years, especially once I built my own home gym, which is right over there. Now it's like, I love it. I can't wait to work out because I'm, better at it. I've seen results. And it's interesting because, and I think Eric Worre might have said it. Somebody said it recently and they were like, I don't really agree with the cliche. Like, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And he's right, because you don't necessarily have to love what you do, but you can love the results that you're getting. And for me, it's all about lifestyle and freedom.
So I just had to hit mute there. There was a dog barking. I don't know if that came through for a little bit. The joys of working from home and the joys of live video. But you make a great point, and I think it's probably a really good place to really dig in, where when you didn't have money, you needed money, right? And there is an energy, obviously, to the need of money and the desperation of money. And the reality is that, as Jim Rohn says, money's not the ultimate thing, but it's kind of up there with oxygen, certainly in today's society, as we need it every single day. And the flow of cash into our life. But once that motivation disappears, it can be a struggle for people, because once we sort of remove that pain point, once that credit card bill disappears, once we kind of get on top of things, that can be a really dangerous situation for people, because if we're only motivated by removing the pain, we can become a bit, almost sort of schizophrenic and up and down, where as soon as that credit card's paid off, then we go out and buy some useless crap and fill the credit card back up again. And then we're like desperate and motivated back into action.
It's a weird addiction, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a weird addiction where people, they make some money, right? You hear about these stories, people like winning the lottery, and like a few years later, they're broke because they don't have money disciplines, and they don't know how to take a dollar and turn it into two, take a dollar and turn it into 10, right? That's the reason, I think, for me and for people like you, why we're so motivated every day, because we actually know what we're doing with the money we're earning, and we're diversified, and we have cash flow, and we have multiple income streams. And that's how you build wealth. That's how you get to a place where, like, you still have stress, you still have problems. I always say new levels, new devils, right? New levels, new devils. But I don't have to worry about like paying my bills. I don't have to worry about, my finances, because we're not only diversified and we've learned how to make it, but we've learned how to protect it and how to grow it. And that's really the game that you're playing in the money making game, like level one, right? If you play video games, like level one would be making it, level two would be protecting it, and then level three would be growing your money.
Yeah, and it's, as you say, that from the addiction point of view, once you learn how to turn $1 into $2, that also becomes quite a game, quite an addiction. And you can almost fall into the trap the other way of, I don't want to spend $10 at the store because I know I can turn that $10 into $20.
Right.
And there just becomes this missed opportunity cost to everything you purchase. But
True.
Let's talk about just that. How did you take that step from desperation to inspiration? Because that's really how I see it, is that, most people, again, start, desperate to change some point in their life. And again, health, wealth, finances, relationship, all those sorts of things. We come out of an area of desperation, but we need to make that transition into inspiration in order to stay active, to stay in the game, to still be doing the Facebook Lives, to still be having the conversations, to still be making sure that you are budgeting all your money and taking care of it, rather than just saying, righto, YOLO, it's time to just blow it all on one big, massive trip around the world with the kids.
Yeah. And I think in the early days when you're getting started, you have to be really disciplined, because you make some extra money and you're just like, oh, I made an extra 500. Let me just like spend that 500. When in reality, it'd be better to reinvest it. I don't know how many of you watch Shark Tank. I'm sure you guys have Shark Tank right down there, but it's eye-opening when you watch that show. Like, you got these business owners that come on and they're like, I've been in business 4 years, we're making $3 million a year. And they're like, are you profitable? And they're like, no, not really. Like, they're not really making money, because the money they make, they put it back into the business, back into the business, back into the business. And I'm not saying you have to take every dollar and reinvest it back into your business, but you probably should in the early days. You probably should treat it like a real business in those early years, because, not weeks, not months, years, because I know for me, as an example, it took me 7 years to fire my boss, quit my job, but I like to call it firing my boss, right? It took me 7 years to create a full-time income in network marketing. It took me 16 years to become $1 million per year earner. And I'm so grateful. I know that sounds weird. I know I sound crazy saying that, but I'm actually grateful it took me 16 years, because I have perspective and I have more gratitude, because I know what it took to get here, and I hold on to it tight. I have an abundant mentality, of course. Like, I believe in purpose, and I believe in legacy, all those things I mentioned. But I also know that, like, I have to continue to show up and earn my dollars. I have to continue to show up and deserve it every single day. And I'm in my prime, right? I'm 43 years old. I'm not 73. I'm not 83. I'm not done anytime soon. But I do think of the future, the legacy, the all the things, right? The future is a great place to be, but really I'm in the present. Like, every day I can't wait to like respond to my messages, put out a piece of content. Like, I have a passion for what I'm doing. And it becomes, like you said, very inspiring, because, you're helping people. So I think in those early years, I was desperate. I was broke as a joke. I had no background in business, no business being in business, but I actually got inspired by people that were a year ahead of me, 4 years ahead of me, young people. At that time, I was much younger, right? 20 plus years ago. So I was inspired when I met other people that were like my age and they were kicking ass. And I was like, I want to be like them. I don't want to wait tables. I don't want to drive my beater, this like, junky car. Like, I'm going to work my face off, because I want to get to a point where money's not an issue. And a lot of these top people, you know, way back then and even still today that I like admired, like they were still showing up and working and doing something that they loved and that they were good at. And again, maybe they didn't love every aspect, but they loved the results. And that was a big inspiration for me. And still today, I get inspired by my own team. When I see them showing up and rank advancing and doing the do, like it keeps me hungry.
Yeah, I love it. And, you know, we're talking about just that energy, finding that inspiration, and it still comes back to the fundamentals. And we have to remember that, you know, and I share this a lot, as you said, from perspective for me, you know, I came through university as a physical therapist, and, you know, that was 4 years at university. Then we had to do a practical year. And, you know, you always joke that not only in your prac year are you working for free, but you're still paying the university for the honor of working for free in the hospitals. Like, I mean, what a system that we sign up to and just accept as normal. And in everything else in life, we accept those things as normal. But then when it comes to money, it's kind of like, why aren't I a genius overnight?
Yeah.
So I spent all those years at university paying money.
Right.
I spent years on prac. I spent years just doing my, you know, apprenticeship. It took me 7 years to break even and think I was a half decent physical therapist, where I could just start to actually say, okay, my career probably starts now, where I've finally got on top of my university debt and all those sorts of things. So when I started in network marketing, I had that same mindset of like, you're probably not going to be profitable for 7 years. Like if this is actually a career, if this is something you're actually doing, you need to have this perspective that it took you 7 years to make 6 figures as a physio. You're probably going to have the same, but we can get so caught up in this. Why hasn't it worked straight away? Why didn't that $5 investment turn into $5 million overnight? Like, where do you think some of that mindset comes from, people that we will accept it, everything else over here, but when it comes to money, business, success, we can be so short term in our mindset?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot like working out or getting good at a sport. I mean, you have to be patient. You know, if you start playing, like I just started playing pickleball. It's a great example.
Yep.
And it's fun to play pickleball, and maybe in other countries they call it paddleball or whatever. I started playing pickleball in August, and it was a lot of fun playing people that were new like me. But then I would play someone that's been playing for a few years, and it was just really irritating. Like I couldn't, you know, serve as well as them. They would spike everything. I mean, it's not fun, right? You actually don't enjoy it. And I get it, because it's the same way in business, right? If someone is trying to compare themselves to you, right? They're trying to compete against you in business, and they're trying to recruit the same person you're recruiting. Yeah, they're probably going to lose that person to you because you've got years of experience and you're years ahead of them. That's why I think people get so easily discouraged, because for some weird reason, they think they have the audacity to think, well, you know, I relate to John, and John and I are about the same age, you know, but I'm not getting the results he's getting. And it's like, yeah, but you just joined a year ago. You might think you and I are alike, but we're not. I got started 22 years ago, and I paid a price, and I still pay that price every single day. I sacrificed. I worked my ass off. I invested the money, the time, the sweat equity, like the amount of relationships, conversations, phone calls, meetings, events, dollars that I've invested, like the time that I put in to think that you should be able to compete with me is foolish. Just like it would be foolish for me to think I can, you know, play pickleball at the same level as someone that's been playing for 5 years, or they've been playing tennis their whole life and they started playing pickleball at the same time as me. And I might say, well, you started when I started. Why can't I compete with you? Why are you crushing me every game? Well, first of all, they might have physical attributes and genetics that I don't have, right? Hand-eye coordination that I think I have, but I don't. Once I play my son in ping pong, I realized real quick that, you know, there's just something about me and something about him that makes him smoke me every time. Hand-eye coordination, maybe it's his age, maybe he got better genetics than I gave him. I don't know, but he kicks my ass in ping pong. Guess who taught him how to play ping pong? Me. But my 19-year-old son, I can't even score against him consistently. Like, it'll be like 5-1, 8-2, you know, 15-4. Like, he just smokes me every time. It's not even enjoyable for me to compete with him. The point is, if I try to compare my chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 22, right? 22 years of network marketing, of course I'm going to be discouraged. Of course I'm going to think there's something wrong with me or this doesn't work, when in reality, I just haven't earned it yet. I haven't deserved the success.
Yeah, I love it. I remember 5 years or so ago, I was on a panel at an event once, and we were talking about this sort of comparison syndrome thing. And, you know, I'm 41, so I would have been mid-30s at this time. And the man next to me on the panel was, again, like an industry legend who'd been around for 30 plus years. And I was saying, you know, I mean, being a bit of an Aussie, it was a bit of a cruder analogy where I was just talking about the fact that he started network marketing while I was still trying to figure out how to use a toilet. So, like, I mean, I've come a long way in those 35 years of figuring out how to use a toilet even. He'd been in the game from right back then. And, you know, just laughing with the ping pong, Jack's right into basketball at the moment. We put up a proper hoop for him for Christmas this year. And, you know, he's 10. So I physically have a few feet of height and strength and that on him. But I know the clock's ticking as well. I know that there's going to be a time where he's just so much more dedicated to me. And I played basketball at school because I was tall, but it was never really a passion for me. Mm-hmm. He's out there every single day. He is in the grind and he's missing shots and whatever. But you know what? He is going to overtake me. And once he overtakes me, he is never looking back because he's willing to do the work and he's willing to suck. And I'd love to circle back to what we were talking about right at the start there. Like, you know, we talk about the sort of big vision. We talk about the long-term game that, you know, how do you still show up 20 years down the track? How are you still here doing a live for me? How are you doing lives for your teams and three-way messages and all that kind of stuff and the passion? But I want to go back to where we talk about that person and they've made their first $500. You know, they've got those first couple of checks, and it's such a precious time. It's such an exciting time. Obviously, there's energy, there's excitement, but it's such a precious time because that is really a moment where, okay, do you want to go out and just try and look successful? Do you want to try and suddenly spend that $500 to impress people, especially in a social media sort of influencer style society? Or do we say, righto, let's put $200 of that back into a couple of good books, back into the next event? Like let's put $100 of that into an account that you cannot touch.
Well, Andrew, here's a great example. People are like, well, oh my gosh, I have to pay $100 for this course or pay $200 for this event ticket. And it's like, you talked about it. How much money did you spend to go to school? I mean,
a lot. Six figures.
It's wild that we don't think of it that way. We're like, why would I pay $100 for this or $200 for that or $50 for this? And it's like, why would I have to buy products? And it's like, if you are having the employee mentality, starting a business, you're already starting off on the wrong foot. Like if you come to the table expecting to exchange time for dollars, you're not getting it. You're missing it. And I think that's probably part of the problem with a lot of people is they have the employee mindset, that employee mentality, instead of a business owner or a CEO mentality where you're investing in your business, you're investing in your education, you're investing in your skills. And I think that's the biggest distinction for people when they get started. Now, here's the caveat. You also can't treat it like a business in some ways when you're part-time, when you're getting started. Like I had to treat it like a part-time job when I got started, because otherwise I'd just be like, you know, I worked really hard today. And it's like, no, you didn't. You didn't. You made a few phone calls. Like that's not running a business. Like you need to almost create like hours of operation where it's like, okay, I'm going to work my business 10 hours a week. And it's going to be 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 5 days a week. And then what are those 2 hour windows going to be? And then like, I got to actually do intentional work. You know, let's say it's 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. or during your lunch break or before work or whatever. It depends on your schedule. It depends on what you got going on. But I agree. I think you take that $500, maybe you take half of that money and you invest it back into your business. And maybe the other half, you know, you save it for taxes and for a dinner, whatever. I'm not saying you got to take all 500 or all 1,000, you know, dollars and reinvest into your business. But when you start looking at it as a business, and like you said, you're investing into the business, you're investing into yourself because you want to make more dollars, right? You're turning that dollar into two, or that $500 into 1,000. That's the mentality you should have. And if you don't have that mentality, well, then you better flip it real quick, because the sooner you start to treat it like a business and not a job, the sooner you'll start to see results.
Yeah, it's this fantastic dance, isn't it? Where like, and it's a great thing to stand up on stage and say, treat this like a business, and everyone throws their hands up and claps. Yeah. But how do you treat it like a business? That's kind of the next half of the question. And for a lot of people, it should just say, you know what, treat this like a part-time job, because we get up in the morning and we set the alarm and we get dressed and we go to work. And as a physio, I loved being a physio, but in all, there was a reality that it was a repetitive task. 85% of what you did every single day was repetitive tasks. And we do that all day, but then it's like, no, business should just be exciting and fun. Look, probably 85% of it is going to be the repetition of fundamental skills. Now, it's different people every time. It was different patients every time. It's different people I'm connecting with every time. But yeah, if we had one superpower when we started 11, 12 years ago now, there was that mindset of, look how much you invested into your business. Look how much you invested into your career. And I know, in the medical world, a weekend course is a few grand, right? And that was just normal. Like if you wanted to learn how to, treat the shoulder better and listen to an Olympic physio about how to treat shoulders, be prepared to pay a couple of grand for a day. So yeah, if I can get a 3-day event for $200, like my head exploded when I discovered that kind of stuff. And people,
well, it's funny. That's also why in 2008 I started recruiting business owners. That's when my business really blew up. When I started recruiting up, I started recruiting A players. I started recruiting business-minded people, people that owned a business, entrepreneurial-minded people, top real estate agents, and people that were more like self-employed, 1099 income. I know you guys probably don't have the 1099 income, but you have self-employed, right? I started recruiting people that were actually more successful, and I was shocked. I'm like signing up attorneys, signing up contractors, and these business owners and big time realtors and people that own multiple companies. And they were like 20, 30 years older than me. And I'm like, why are these people saying yes to me? And then a light bulb went off. Like, they're not saying yes to me. They're saying yes to the opportunity because they see an opportunity differently than an employee. That doesn't mean if you're an employee, you can't be successful. That doesn't mean you shouldn't recruit employees. But in general, when I started recruiting up versus trying to recruit people that looked up to me, recruiting down, right? Recruiting people that were oh, my buddy Bobby, he really needs an opportunity. He's so broke. Like, he needs to do this. No, Bobby needs a job. Bobby needs to get off his ass, right? Let me go find business owners and people that are already well connected. They already have the business mindset. They're all, in this day and age, you could say influencers, right? Not necessarily social media influencers, although they're great too. The point is, you want to find people with influence, people that have been in business, people that have a business mentality. And I think you'll be surprised how many of those people, not only are they more open-minded, but business owners know business owners. Success-minded people know other success-minded people. And it was eye-opening for me only because, I was very young when I got started. So a lot of my friends were young and broke and didn't have the money. And I struggled. And then years later, when I got into mortgages and I did real estate, man, I was recruiting those people left and right. I had more influence, but also the people I was talking to were more open-minded. And then in 2008, I went all in with recruiting business owners. I went all in with recruiting people that, were more successful than me. They were older than me. They had more credibility than me. And that's when my business became a full-time income. And then years later, eventually went from 6 to 7 figures once I took kind of the old school offline skills and put them online and duplicated that way. And still today, I mean, I know you're in the same boat, right? We like to work with people that are, open-minded, that are positive, that, they have a vision for the future. Like, they want more out of life than just like living paycheck to paycheck.
We come back to that, we come back to that energy, isn't it? Of I need this versus I want this, and that need. And again, we can, in money and recognition of this industry, we love to tell that story of the person that went from $0 to $10,000 in a month. Yeah. And again, like that person who came from nowhere and is suddenly a successful sports star, like those stories sell so well. But unfortunately, there's just so often there's just such a massive drop off because, again, that need energy fires them up so quickly. The person who wants it might be a little bit slower, and they might not just sprint out of the blocks because they're different. Their energy is different, but they've got that long term. And so, again, that's always been my mindset on money, that the longer, like, you're playing this long game with money, and the whole point is that I shouldn't need to be watching it every day. I shouldn't need to be putting any brain power in. I think that's, again, one of the great paradoxes of investing, is the whole point of investing is that you do nothing. You buy the house and then you do nothing for 10 to 15 years. And again, we get this, sort of, we have to fiddle with it every day. We have to be there, like, trying to squeeze every single cent out of it. And then we squeeze the thing dry. The biggest thing that I pick up from what you're saying is you changed your environment. And you stopped hanging around broke people and started hanging around wealthy people.
Yeah.
And that immediate change of environment is, one of my great mentors is, environment is stronger than willpower. And we can have all the willpower in the world, but if all our friends are broke, we're going to end up at the pub with them talking about how broke we are.
100%. 100%. Proximity is power. And I think ultimately when you start hanging out with people that are playing big, it doesn't always have to be in person too. It could be they're just following your podcast. They're following your videos. And, when you're following people that are playing big and you're collaborating with those people, maybe they're your upline, maybe they're your sideline, whatever that looks like. Maybe you're getting together with people locally, join like a local business owner group or networking group. Like it is interesting when you start playing with people that are going somewhere, you just can't help but grab onto that energy, and all of a sudden you start showing up bigger. You start committing to things that you never thought. It's the same reason, like, going to the gym, going to the gym in the beginning. Now, it could be discouraging if you compare yourself to people that go to the gym every day and have been for 20 years, but it can be encouraging if you're there and you're just in that environment. You're like, you know what? I'm here. These guys are working out. My friends, my coworkers, they're all making excuses. I'm here. I'm going to show up every day or 5 days a week for the next 90 days. And then what happens, right? You start getting results. Then you start building confidence. You start to see, like, dude, is that a muscle? Holy shit, right? Same thing in business. Like, you make a couple checks, right? You get a little rank advancement here and there. And you're like, wow, this is legit. This is real. What if I kept going? What could I do?
Because of my background and, I was working with athletes and teams, that, again, it always fascinated me that the very top athletes wanted to train with other very top athletes.
Right.
And, the average athlete is kind of like, no, I'm on my own. You don't steal my, I'm not working out with you kind of stuff. You'll get better and all that kind of stuff. Top athletes were like, iron sharpens iron, game recognizes game. And it just, again, I took all those lessons from that 10-year career into here. And it was like, well, if I want to get to the very top, if I want to be the very best I can and master this game of money, master this game of business, the only way to do that is to surround myself with people who've already done it, put my ego to the side and just say, righto, like, I have to get better and I'm going to get around other iron that is going to sharpen me better.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was one of the biggest reasons events were such a big deal for me in the early days. Those events changed everything because I could go to like these. So we would have these weekly, or not weekly, but these, we had offices in my first company. So we'd have these daily briefings, they were called. And you could go to those, you hear the presentation over and over, and you get motivated. You see people signing up and you're like, oh, I should probably bring some people. But it wasn't until I went to like one of those big weekend events. Like I went out of town, had to stay in a hotel with a bunch of other dudes. Right. I was so broke. I couldn't even barely afford the ticket. But going to those events and seeing the speakers on stage and all the testimonials and then like hanging out with people for lunch, and it just like changed everything. I mean, my confidence, my mentality, just, seeing what was possible. It was everything. That to me, like if someone's watching this right now and they're like, man, I love what they're saying, but like, I can't hang out with John or Andrew, or they, like they're not in my company or they're too big or too busy. Like, how do I find something to plug into? Like, events are life-changing. And when you go to events and you say, you know what, I'm going to go to all the company events that are coming up, and maybe I'll even go to some other events like a Brendan Bouchard event, GoPro, whatever. Like physically going to those events, investing the money, investing the time, taking off work, flying, staying in a hotel, like hanging out with people for dinner, hanging out with people for lunch. Like that will change your entire life, and it's permanent. It's a permanent change. And those changes, those decisions I made to go to all those events in those early years, I mean, I remember just being mind blown by some of the speakers. And, you know, I wish I like saved some of my old like journals and notebooks when we like set goals. And, you know, because I never really, I hate to admit this, but in those early years, I never really believed I'd become a millionaire. I never really believed that. It just seemed like it was just impossible to make that kind of money. And I'm happy to say, just like over the last couple years, my wife and I have earned over $10 million in just the last several years in network marketing. So to go from like barely being able to buy a ticket, sitting in the seats all by myself, sitting in the nosebleed sections, you know, but knowing that like I wanted to change my life and how much those events changed my life. And you know what's funny? You know what's kind of sad too? Some of those people that changed my life, like they would be on stage changing lives. They're not even in network marketing today. Some of those people, they didn't even stick with it. So one of the best things you can do is just never give up. But you can't just not give up. You have to show up, do the do, keep investing in yourself, keep growing, keep learning, and never stop with the personal development. Never stop reading, never stop listening to podcasts or whatever works for you. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not a big reader, but I listen to personal development all the time. I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always going to events. Like, I love to be a part of those environments. And it really is the biggest piece, in my opinion, to my success. And I think most top earners would probably say that the events, especially in the early years, were pivotal for their career.
Yeah, I want to hit on those book things because I want to just sort of, I think there's a perfect way to wrap up the call, and I want to honor and respect your time here. Just before you do that, I want to just share, you know, for Angie and I, it's such a similar story where, you know, again, our mentor, our upliner was like, you know, you've got to get to events. And the very next event for us was in Las Vegas. And, you know, we're in Australia, Las Vegas, it's a decent flight.
Yeah.
And I remember Angie was...
How long is that flight, by the way?
Well, Brisbane to LA is about 13 hours. And then, you know, LA to whatever, that's a couple of hours, I think, over.
So when people are complaining they have to like drive to an event or like it's like a 2-hour flight, you had 13 hours just to go to LA and then have another flight. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and we lived 4 hours from the airport too at the time, where we lived at the 4-hour drive just to Brisbane Airport. You know, long story, but the funny part about it, well, I said the part of it was that Angie was 5 months pregnant, and again, we had no money at the time. Like, it was all the spare money we had, and so we weren't staying at Caesars or Link or anything like that. We were in some hotel that they filmed the CSI dead body scenes in. Like,
not a hotel, a motel.
Yeah. And it was interesting. We'll just put it that way. But a couple of things happened. And it was just, again, it was just about that proximity. And I remember that event, and Angie and I it was just us two. We had no one with us. We had no team, no one believing in us. But right at the end of the final day, and, you know, you go into the bathroom, and Angie just walking to the bathroom just happens to connect with the #1 income earner, the top, you know, leader, who'd just come off stage and just went up and introduced herself. And, hey, you know, I loved what you said. And it's like, look, come and have dinner with us. There's a group of us going out for dinner.
Wow.
So immediately, you know, here we are at the end of the night. I just remember we're in the New York bar there at, you know, just surrounded by like all these people, and we were just able to pick their brain. And I remember the other thing that prompted me just to share this story was, again, during the event, they were doing, you know, some charity raffles, and one of the charity raffles was a big, enormous, like, you know, mastermind training, and all the money would go to charity. And again, we had nothing but one person. There were a group of Aussies, and we're all sort of sitting together. None of us were related, company, you know, team-wise, but we were just all there as Aussies. But he put his hand up and said, "Righto, guys, how about we all pool whatever we've got, and we'll go and do this thing, because we all need to do this." Like, Australia was so young at the time, and, you know, it was $2,000 each or something, and we all put in this. Of the 10 people who did it, 9 became 7-figure earners.
Wow!
And it was just like, again, it was, at the end of the day, I wasn't really paying for the education; I was paying for the proximity.
Yeah.
And again, it was such a leap for us, for Angie and I, to invest in a business that was making $0 at the time. but it was, you know what, I'm going to pay to be around these other people. I'm going to pay to be around these top trainers. And unfortunately, yeah, one person, you know, never quite made it, but the other 9 did.
Right.
And that point that you say as well, I remember the thing I really remember, and the thing that gives me this passion now for this kind of training, is sitting there and seeing all these income earners walking across stage, and all these 6- and 7-figure earners walking across stage. And, you know, back in the day when you kind of had your big novelty checks and all that kind of stuff. But I remember turning to Angie, like, how can you stuff this up? Like, this is incredible. As long as you just stay in the game,
exactly,
we're going to be up on stage.
Yeah.
As long as we just do this, we're going to be up on that stage in a few years. And now I look back, and all those people who walked across the stage as a 6-figure earner, and now I don't know where they are, but they are not doing this anymore. And it breaks my heart. But it's like, where was that person to just pull them aside and say, okay, you know what? Out of that $100,000 you've made, how about we put 10 into your education, 10 into sort of clearing up some debt, 10 into a little investment account. You can still live off $70,000 extra. Like, you can live off that. But again, we just sort of rush to quit our jobs. We rush to buy stuff, and we rush to try and look really successful. And that short-term success kills us from getting that long-term success.
Yep.
Because that rush to look successful so soon, that rush to upgrade the car, that rush to upgrade the house, that rush to have the holidays. Yes, you only live once. Yes, you have to live in the moment, but long money is at the expense of short money. Like, we've got to be willing to sacrifice that if we really want that, if we're inspired to go bigger.
Yeah. I don't remember what the quote was exactly, but it was some interview I was watching, and the guy says, you have to sacrifice what you want today for what you want tomorrow. And that really is the name of the game. Like, you could still have some fun when you're getting started. You can still have a life. I'm not saying you have to like shut off cable and Netflix and all the things, but I mean, I didn't have any of that in my early years. I'll give you an example. I remember everybody would talk about Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones. I didn't start watching Game of Thrones until season 5. And guess what? That was the first year I made 7 figures. So I didn't have HBO. I didn't have I had none of that stuff. Cable TV, movie channels. Like I mean, I did have kids. So to me, it was like, I'm going to build my business and raise my children. I'm going to, you know, my wife and I, we met in network marketing, by the way. So if you're single looking to mingle, network marketing is a good place to meet men and women. But Nadia and I, we had kids at a young age. She got pregnant at 23, dude. Like, we were having kids it sounds like you guys started young too, right? But you know, for us, it was all business and all like family. So, you know, and we were working really hard in our business, but at the same time, it was like, I don't want to be a bad dad. So I wanted to still be able to like raise my kids, especially once my son started going to school, because he's the oldest, you know, and he started playing like baseball, playing sports. Like, I was like, I have to figure out a way to build my business online or from home, which ended up being on social media, right? Because I want to be wealthy. I want to be successful. I want to build a massive business, but I also want to be an awesome father. You know, it's like, how can I have both the success, financial success, but also the freedom, the lifestyle, like to go to my son's baseball games, travel with my family, like vacation, like how can I have both? I don't want to have an or life. I don't want to be an awesome dad or rich. I want to be, you know, both a good parent, a good, you know, husband, and I want to build a multi-million-dollar business. And that's why we started leveraging the internet and building businesses, leveraging social media. But it really is true, man. You have to know, like, everything you do, it's a season of your life. You're going to sacrifice, you know, some time in those early days. You're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to invest money. You're not going to make a lot of money. Those early years, it's going to be tough. You're going to suck. You have to embrace the suck. But like you said, you have to think long term. And there's just so many people that get caught up in the short-term success, the short-term money, and they're not here today. And it's really sad, because some of those people rocked my world. They changed my life 20 years ago, and they're not in the profession today because they gave up. They didn't keep doing the do.
Guys, if you are on the live stream, make sure you are letting John know about all the gold nuggets he is dropping, because you know, we could open up a rabbit hole of building around family and building around children. But again, we'll get you back. We'll do this another time. But because I want to respect your time. But yeah, I want to hit on that, is the really important thing that's always been for me. And for me, it was Breaking Bad. I never really got into Game of Thrones, but I remember Breaking Bad, similar thing where everyone was talking about it. And I watched one episode and I fell in love with it. And I also said, righto, this show is so awesome, but don't watch it because I know it will consume you. And so I waited. Yeah, same thing. It was like it was right at the end. And it was like, okay, no, we've made 7 figures now. Now I'm going to actually start to enjoy some of these other things.
Exactly.
Breaking Bad was like, yeah.
Same thing with buying like designer clothes, buying a fancy car. Like, not yet. You know what it is? It doesn't actually make you more money. It's very rare that someone's like, damn, you got a couple Teslas, or you have like that Gucci scarf. Like, you want to know what inspires people? I'll tell you how I get leads when I buy another investment property. That's when people blow up my inbox. Like, can I interview you? What kind of business are you in? Like, I want to see what you're doing. Teach me about money. Because people want that. They want a beach house. They want an investment property. That's actually more inspiring than going and buying liabilities. Anyway, again, whole other conversation, but there is a difference in buying an asset and a liability, and, spending time on your business versus in your business, spending time, learning from a mentor or investing in a course, and then watching a show that isn't going to, especially like GOT or Breaking Bad, like those aren't necessarily positive influences on our lives. Anyway, I appreciate you having me, bro.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And like, again, we just that whole, like, I mean, I remember I had 3 investment properties in a business before I bought a car. Like, and I was just, because I had this like $500 POS, but it was like, no, wait till your assets buy you the car rather than your wage buying you the car. And that was a big thing. And again, we'll open that up on another day. Just finishing on that thing, like, put your brain to work, guys. Like, I think sometimes we can, like, you can have both if you're willing to put your brain to work. I know, again, like back in my physio career, I wanted to see the world, but I didn't have the freedom at the time. Well, how can I do both? Well, I got involved in winter sports. I worked my way up. I did the hard yards and ended up being able to travel the world with like ski athletes and stuff like that. So you can do both if you're willing to put your brain to work. It's just not a matter of accepting that, oh, well, it's one or the other. Put your brain to work and figure out the solutions on how can I see the world and build a business and do all those sorts of things. So as I said, mate, just want to finish up with what are a couple of the really, I'd love to read your journals and all that kind of stuff, as you say, but what were some of those really impactful books? Or just a course you did, or an impactful book, or even just like a conversation, a sliding doors moment conversation in your life that you go back to all those years ago, that what was one of those things that just helped you make that transition to start to change your environment? What could someone read today that would really start them on the path?
A book that really rocked my world in the early days was How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think there's a lot of big time earners in network marketing that was one of the first books they read too, right? Maybe Rich Dad, Poor Dad, maybe Think and Grow Rich. But How to Win Friends and Influence People really revolutionized the way I ran my business, how I treated my kids, how I treated, my friends, my family. Like, it really helped, because I think most of us, we don't really have that personal development, that character development. We don't learn that stuff in school. We don't always necessarily learn how to treat people in business, or, know how to be a leader in business, if that makes sense, how to communicate with others. If you've never been in charge of people, you've never had a leadership role. And some people might say, well, I'm a manager in my job. That's just different, though. That's different than leading people in business. And for me, that was a really impactful book. And I still today recommend it to everybody that's like, hey, I want to get better with people. I want to become a better communicator. That book rocked my world way back when. But it's interesting too, because there's obviously so many books out there. There's a lot of books on marketing, and there's a lot of books on business. I just think leadership books are probably the most important, just in general.
Yeah, I love it. Just those classics, right? You just talk about the T. Harv Ekers, the Kiyosaki's, the Carnegies, like these things that stand the test of time because they work.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be changes. There's always, currencies are going to change, finances are going to change, business is going to change, but the fundamentals will never change. And
you get this in check, you're good with everything else.
Yeah. Awesome, Matt. I absolutely honor to have you on. And as said, we could really open up some rabbit holes on building around family and really like a deeper dive into that asset conversation, which is such an important thing about turning our cash flow into assets. We'll have a deeper dive on those conversations another day. But I want to respect your time today, mate. I know it's probably getting towards evening time for you. You want to be with the kids and with the family. So I want to say thank you for being on. I'll see you in Vegas in about a month's time.
Yeah, man.
Well, which is exciting. Yeah, guys, if you want to follow on to John as well, if you want to learn more from John, you can follow him on social media, John Melton, Real John Melton on Instagram. You'll also see up on the screen there, mylifestyleacademy.com/resources. You can get a heap of free content and free training from him there as well. So if you're on the podcast, I'll pop that up in the show notes. Obviously, if you're watching it live, you'll see it up on the screen there. Mate, happy New Year, and we will see you very soon. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me. Later, bro.